with a chance to turn. Well, it's not like pitching where you can turn the guy around, but you take a chance.
Well, we know that the Browns have a lot of money because they gave in that deal for Osweiler. They spent a lot of money just to take on that contract because they had to make sure that some people talk about the cap. Well, they had to deal with the ceiling. They had to make sure they spent more than the required amount of money they had to spend as a team. So
as opposed to the San Diego Padres. Yeah, well, enough of that.
So how are your Yankees doing, Dave?
We're coasting, and I am actually downstairs because the girls are gabbing. I got a ticket, 25-1 if the Yankees win the World Series, and it's a $20 one. So I'll be up a couple. It's from Reno, excuse me. So the Yanks are playing well. We've avoided injuries to the pitching staff. Everybody talks about the chance of picking up Garrett Cole or somebody like that. But no news is good news. CC, I mean, again, the slide is going to flatten out eventually. So, but as they say, just ride the horse as long as you can.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens.
And you got to feed the cats too, right?
Yeah, like I said, if you have to coexist with nature. What can I tell you? So,
yeah, definitely.
That's what it's all about. And Mark, I know you didn't. The question I posed to you. Pardon me. You didn't bring it up to the panel tonight?
Oh, no. I'll read it right now.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll read it right now. And in 1 second here.
And don't forget about the Yankees also, guys. They really, 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 and I know we've heard this before, they do want to get underneath the luxury tax. Because you get underneath once, you save yourself a lot of money in the future.
That's true.
I did see the website. They have things on the website there. For they have openings.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, there's nothing better than public safety.
So who's more important, the quarterback, the pitcher, or the goalie?
In a one-game situation.
In a one-game situation.
Quarterback. I'm going with the quarterback too. One-game situation. Yeah, I'm going with the quarterback.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Pitcher, you have.
I'd say pitcher.
No. That's hard. But between a quarterback, pitcher, and a goalie, who's more important in one game? I gotta go with the quarterback.
Could you look at that Texans game last year and the Cardinals game 2 years ago?
Exactly.
When Carson Palmer went out and they had to use like the third string quarterback.
Remember the Texans? It was the Texans Raiders game this year, right? The first round playoff game.
Both quarterbacks.
That was horrible to watch.
Yeah, we don't even say that in college football.
Yeah, guys throwing
let alone high school.
Yeah, exactly.
The ball was hitting the ground. 5 feet from wide receivers. The ball was hitting the ground.
With pitcher, you got batters, depending on your team, who could come and make up for you. Goalie, if you have a great defense, but to be a quarterback in a one-game Super Bowl, just think about the Super Bowl if it wasn't Tom Brady playing for the New England Patriots. Just think about how that could have, happened. Probably the most boring Super Bowl any of us ever watched. So
I mean, they're in baseball, a good pitcher changes things. Like Earl Hershiser, 1988, this season, just going scoreless innings and then the World Series. But there's less games in football, right? You got 16 in the regular season, then the playoffs, I guess 4 games if you want to go all the way. I guess maybe we can give them a bye.
But say if 2 quarterbacks are having a great game, it doesn't make a difference.
No, that's not true.
Well, you've had in hockey, the Vezina Trophy goes to the best goalie, right? There have been instances where the Vezina Trophy was shared by teammates because the goalies formed such a good tandem that they shared it together. The best goalie was the combination of goalies.
That was for a while, too, at the end of Berto's career.
So it's happened, in terms of maybe the whole, we'll use the word again, paradigm of those other sports is that you're not going to see quarterback tandem. It's not going to happen. You're not going to Johnny Unitas and Earl Morrell in 1969. You're not going to see it because there's got to be the man.
The closest we've seen though is when what were those plays the Wildcat plays they used to run or the Pahokee,
which were a gimmick. I always thought there would be a time like in baseball when a pitcher doesn't have it in baseball. They're like hit the showers and you'll come back in 5 days or 4 days. You'll be okay. In football, if a starting quarterback is doing poorly, they don't yank him. If you were to apply that logic, though, hey, let's yank him here, put a relief guy in, go go think about things. Go take a breather or whatever. But no, what would that start? That would start a back page quarterback controversy. Blah blah blah.
And the coach would never do it because the coach would look bad twice.
That's right. And football is such a copycat sport. No one wants to be a revolutionary in football. So.
Yeah, and if that was the case, just imagine. Even though he had a great season, but like. Cowboys, if you do have two decent quarterbacks, it's just going to be back and forth the whole season.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's right. And that was the leash they had to give Dak Prescott. They could not. They had a hope that he turned it around. That okay, if they're losing, he'll come back because they couldn't have. It just would have led to some bad things.
Didn't something come out that Jerry Jones is planning on still keeping Tony Romo's name tag in his locker still up?
It's funny, but that's very convenient now because they know Romo's not coming back. To them, I mean, there are still a lot of people in football believe that Romo's coming back.
Yeah,
but that's very convenient for them because they can. Romo allowed that he let them off the hook basically. He let them down easily so that they didn't have to make some really difficult decisions by releasing him and that kind of stuff. So they can now take the higher road and be like, yes, we'll leave Tony Romo's name plate, whatever there.
Yeah.
And then they can always reserve the right that if, for whatever crazy reason, Prescott gets lost for the year injury-wise, what's that? Why is that Tony Romo's entrance music? Kind of thing.
Even though Jerry Jones is praying for that.
Oh, yeah.
And the excuse...
No, the giant defensive line is praying for that.
And the excuse was like, when fans come visit the locker room, we want them to be able to say, "Oh, hey, Tony Romo locker was right there." Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's. Did anybody hear? I think Tony Romo was supposed to be on the 18th hole this week, covering some golf.
Yeah,
if they were down in Dallas. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
How did he sound?
I know. I heard about it
because he's a scratch golfer. I mean, he's a guy who's tried to. He wanted to be on the tryout for the U.S. Open. Actually,
Tony Romo can give some good cafefe of golf.
some golf cafefe for Tony Romo. Yes, absolutely.
What about Joe Buck in golf?
Well, there are guys who tried it, like Nance. Nance was a college golfer. That was his thing. He was Freddie Couples' teammate at the University of Houston. And so Nance was a golf guy who had the golf credentials and then took it to go to every other sport, Whereas Pat Summerall was a kicker for the football Giants in the 40s and 50s, and he's a guy who parlayed that to being a golf guy. And he actually rarely does a jock become the play-by-play guy, but Pat Summerall became a play-by-play guy. Usually the ex-jocks, are the color commentators, but he became a play-by-play guy. Frank Gifford did the same thing. They stayed at it long enough that they, which is why I've always said that when Francesa leaves, I think that Esiason and Sims should become the afternoon team because Esiason can do play. It's not play-by-play on Sports Talk, but he can do the
father Sims.
He could do the radio pro guy and let Sims do the sports stuff.
The Father Sims, right?
Father Sims, Phil. Now Phil's home. Phil doesn't have Phil's not a TV guy. He's not a game guy.
The son one is they try. It's boring.
He's boring. He's very boring. It's funny because I think Chris Christie wants that morning gig in the worst way, and
with Carton
Christie and Carton. But someone reminded me. And he used to call into the show, actually, former Governor David Patterson. David Patterson is a big sports talk guy. Actually went to Hofstra, grew up in Hempstead. Yeah. Two ex-governors, Patterson and Christie, would be a great team because now all the morning shows are a combination of sports and politics, right?
Yeah.
But don't forget the Nassau Morning Madhouse, weekdays at 9 a.m. Nassau Morning Madhouse, weekdays at 9 a.m. But again, a mix of sports and politics and life and issues and things like that. So that's what you can have with those guys.
And not just that, also what's going on in New York too. Just don't forget that.
Right.
Like some of these programs, I was listening to one of these programs, sports politics programs. I found about the best cookie dough place in New York. You ever heard of the dough? You ever heard of that place?
No, but that's a great name.
Yeah.
I love names of bakeries. But it is interesting because cookie dough has taken on a. People now talk about cookie dough being bad for you, being poison. You can get sick from cookie dough. So raw cookie dough because of the eggs being raw. So that's all of a sudden, again, it's talking about things that weren't prevalent when I was a kid. Now all of a sudden, raw cookie dough is considered a bad thing. So
I wasn't in your day.
I loved raw cookie dough. In my day, back when I was walking up the snow both ways uphill.
I don't want to date. Maybe it's older than you. Maybe you'll be happy. Peanut butter and marshmallow sandwiches.
Oh, peanut butter and fluffer, right?
Yeah,
was that Dave?
yeah.
Wasn't that what it was? Peanut butter and fluffer.
Peanut butter and fluffer.
Yeah, peanut butter and fluffer is what they.
That sounds like a sugar madhouse.
Yeah, I didn't. I peanut butter marshmallow. However, I could live on peanut butter and jelly. Healthy grape jelly, though. I mean, peanut butter and jelly, I probably ate every day of my grammar school years. Yeah. Nowadays, my kids won't eat peanut butter. And not because they're allergic, but just because every kid, they know so many kids with peanut allergies, and they've been in so many rooms that have that picture of the peanut with the red line through it, that they've never, ever tried peanut butter.
Is this some kind of evolution thing?
It could be evolution. It could be test tube baby. I mean, there's things that are different. If you want to think of things that different from when I was a kid versus today, test tube baby wasn't in vitro fertilization didn't exist until '77. You're taking away, you're making perfect baby. Things like that. I don't know. Could be we've so sanitized ourselves with Purell and everything. Who knows?
Just remember, God created evolution.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say in my day when you went to school, some kid claimed a peanut allergy and started rolling around on the floor, you'd be laughing at him. He's not going to claim that one more time.
Right.
So, up and up.
That was the snap out of it. Yeah. I mean, it was the moonstruck thing. Well, I was telling this story last week about concussions, because Tristan was saying, I'm sure I've had some concussions. I remember being a kid, getting hit in the head, and then the coach saying, how many fingers up? You'd say 3. Close enough, get back in there. That's what it was. It was like, how many fingers up? Close enough, get back in there. Throw some dirt on it, right? Rub some dirt on, throw some dirt on. That's what it was.
And when they used to do the football
blink
players,
a few times, and then
in both high school and college, was to sick. They use the word smelling salts, but it was really ammonia.
Yeah.
And your neck would snap back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And then, or you'd memorize the answers because they'd ask you your address, they'd ask you what day you were born, whatever.
How many fingers Mr. Med has?
Mr. Med has 4 fingers. Therefore, he cannot have a middle finger. Son. It's impossible.
But again, I'm not the biggest basketball fan, and people are railing, about the inequity. If you started giving, and I'm biting my tongue when I say this, if you gave out, like say 6 buys to the top 6 teams, and then made it the teams that didn't get in, have them fight it out, and then have to play one of the big teams, that might actually work because you would actually have the top guys jockeying for position, to a point. And you'd have the lesser teams, again, I'm talking about late in the season, actually trying to find a position, or a favorable position as far as the team they would be going against.
Well, let's face it, the NBA got exactly the matchup they wanted, needed, and expected to happen, and every single playoff game that came before this just led to what they call that chalk. It's all chalk. It came to this finale. So it was good. The Celtics got extra rounds to the playoffs, which is good for the team, which is good for the arena. But at the end of the day, they could have said, you know what, no 82-game season this year. Let's just have the Warriors and Cavaliers play best of 7 right now. Yeah. And then they could have. It wasn't going to happen, but they could have done that.
Go ahead. No. I was going to say they made a little bit of riff-raff with Shaq and Barkley, but I think that was just to get people to watch.
That's right. Make compelling theater.
Again, I think Shaq's feet was way.
Oh my god!
Oh, you saw that? And some kid came out and said, listen, if that's what it takes to be a 4-time champion in the Hall of Fame, I'm good. And I was laughing because, no, that's true. That's horrible feet. I've never seen feet like that.
Every superstar had a sacrifice. LeBron's hairline.
Yeah. Shaq's feet, I don't wish that on no man. But what I was going to say was...
Well, Michael Jordan doesn't have hair either. He was shaving his head because he lost his hair because he lost it.
And LeBron need to get a clue. But that's a different story. But I didn't agree with that at first, but I think, though... 1 to 12 with the top 12 teams and then make that the playoffs, so not East or West. I didn't agree with that first, but I think that would actually be a good idea.
Yeah, I didn't want to go as high as 12. I was using 6 as a number, but you're right.
Yeah, I think that would be way better, more competition.
Well,
think about the West
teams.
Well,
so much of it comes because you need, demographically and geographically, you need to have a matchup that's going to have people across the country
it's costing
watching.
A lot of money to fly, too, now. Like in other sports, specifically baseball, they don't fly on Sundays anymore after the series. A lot of times now they fly on Wednesday.
But they're post 9/11. It's so hard going domestic. Going commercial that they all do charter flights.
No, but it still costs money to.
Yeah, sure. But I it's funny to think that Cleveland, like no other sport would. Cleveland, the Indians were in the World Series this year. Would it be a ratings grabber? Cleveland, oh great,
mistake by the lake.
However, it's LeBron James, and basketball only has 5 guys on the court, and one of them is LeBron James, only the best player in basketball.
That just shows how great he is. Could you imagine if some way somehow North Dakota.
Let's think about this. Any other sport? Okay, we're saying the Golden State Warriors, who are essentially, do we call them Oakland or San Francisco?
Bay Area.
They're moving the Bay Area. Okay. Yeah.